Welcome to Chapter 11, Part A. The man with the multicolored hair stood at the edge of the cliff. What the hell is he doing? I wondered. He's going to fall. I have to help him. I willed my feet to move faster, but they wouldn't move. Oh my God, he's falling. Help! I screamed. Somebody help! My pounding heart startled me awake. Then I realized I was immobilized with crippling fear, my limbs unable to budge. Staring up at the ceiling, my senses absorbed my surroundings while my body recovered from the adrenaline. A dream, I realized. It was only a dream. But reality was even edgier as I acknowledged the fear that I wouldn't be able to deal with what had happened to Matthew while in such a fragile state. I had only just begun my investigation and I was already having nightmares. After all, it hadn't been that long since Dylan died. Was I ready to relive the pain and memories of one death as I delved into another? Maybe it was time to talk to Bridget about letting go and just accepting the police and the coroner's report. Then rationality came back to me, and with it, the cognizance of how idiotic this notion really was. How could I ask Bridget to let go of this? And all because of a bad dream? How many times would I dream about Matthew? It's my Gaelic blood, after all. I feel the sorrow and pain of other people's losses. It's made me too damned sensitive and intuitive. My only defense is to leap into action, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. It's also the only way to beat off the crippling Celtic twilight. With that image in mind, I rolled over and hit the floor, running. I made an appointment to see Matthew's fiancee, Sharon, and she agreed to meet at 12:30 that afternoon. As I drove toward her address, I noted that her neighborhood shouted money. Multi-story, multi-bedroom brick homes with skylights, lush landscaping, and lengthy, winding, lamp-lit drives were the norm out here. Bold pigments of dark blue, green, red, and black adorned the double doors. Glass enclosed sunrooms, like rigid appendages, attached themselves to each home. Such a stark contrast with the thousands of small cottages with turf fireplaces and a few measly acres out back. I arrived finally at the Brownsville Flats. They were once a nunnery, but that had been traded in and remodeled into spacious luxury apartments. An elaborate wrought iron gate guarded the enclosure. The royal blue doors suggested richness and superiority. A black Lexus occupied Sharon's driveway. Aunt Georgina had described her as a diligent and highly regarded financial planner who had once been a stockbroker, working for Merrill Lynch and specializing in technology stocks. Sharon opened the door, stepping back to allow me in. The high-end furniture and clearly genuine paintings which hung on the foyer walls arrested my eyes. Recognizing a David Hockney, I wondered if her taste in art was the glue that brought her and Matthew together. "Good, you're on time," she said, but still clearly annoyed. "I have to make calls this afternoon that can't be canceled. Come in." I immediately felt like an unwanted but necessary repair person who'd ruined her day. Her voice was cool, low, and without accent. I figured she must have taken lessons to neutralize the brogue. The stereotypical images of Irish women are founded on Maureen O'Hara, tall, red-haired, and blue-eyed. In contrast, Sharon was petite, about 5'2". Her short jet black hair, cut in a tapered bob style, accentuated high cheekbones and the raised eyebrows over her brown eyes. With her golden olive skin, I would have guessed Spanish, not Irish ancestry. She wore a stylish brown silk long-sleeved blouse tucked into brown pants and flat leather shoes. Every accessory, earrings, watch, ring, accentuated her skin color and her dark eyes, including the puffy circles that underline them. I followed her into an immense living room, No vestiges of an unsolitary cell remained. White fabrics provided the backdrop for pine and oak woods and black leather seating arrangements. An oriental rug drew attention to the hardwood floor. I figured the rent must be astronomical. Sharon pointed to one of the sofas, telling me to take a seat while she went to get us a drink. Oil paintings hung on all four walls, and I scrutinized the signatures and found no Matthew Sumner. I considered the quiet stateliness of the room, then recalled Matthew's own living quarters. How did he and Sharon complement each other as a couple? How did his passions fit into her world? Did she seek excitement with him as an escape from her high-pressured career? I hope you like Riesling, she said as she returned. It's one of my favorites. Trimbach Cuvée from Alsace. She handed me a glass. Raising hers to her lips, she took a sip, smiled, and asked, So what can I tell you, Miss O'Brien? First of all, I began, I want you to know how sorry I am about what happened to Matthew. I lost someone I loved last year as well, and I know that it hurts for a long time. Her hand shook slightly as she placed her glass on the table beside mine. She tried to smile again, but this time her face didn't cooperate. Her lips trembled and her hand shook even more. Believing that it's best to tackle the tough questions first, I asked her, Had you noticed that Matthew seemed distracted lately? For a moment, her eyes shot around the room as if she didn't recognize where she was. Then she said, Not at all. He was totally absorbed with the art project he's been working on. She bowed her head in the general direction of Clare Island. Did he ever mention a place called Tranquility House? I asked, explaining the brochure I'd found in his townhouse. Never. She stood and walked over to the large picture window that contemplated a small green garden containing several ivy and rose arbors. Now she had her back to me, which made reading her difficult. I thought I knew Matthew, she went on. I realize now that one never knows another person, not even oneself, does one? She turned and strode back across the room to the sofa. Did he experiment with drugs? I asked. Is that what you mean about not knowing him? After a long silence, she said, Matthew changed in the last few months. He overpowered me with questions whenever we were together, asked me about where I'd been, whom I'd seen. He acted needy and dependent. We hadn't seen much of one another lately. Our careers separated us quite often. She paused here to rub her hands together as if trying to erase something. I deal with numbers and data, Miss O'Brien. Cold, precise information upon which I make decisions that affect my clients' lives, not to mention my own. Matthew dealt in feelings and intuition. He was moody and temperamental. She stopped, ran a hand through her hair, then continued. He could have experimented with drugs. The guards say he did. Why? Maybe money was an issue? Maybe he envisioned that it would make him more creative? I don't know, and I don't care to know. My feelings for Matthew died long before he did. He just didn't know it. She reached forward to sip her wine, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Instead, she withdrew them and launched herself out of the sofa. Now, is that all? I have an important appointment with a client that I can't be late for. I got up, saying, If you remember anything or anyone that can help me understand what happened, please call me. Of course, came her curt reply. Mere seconds later, I found myself standing on her front steps again. As she closed the door behind me, her phone rang. I sat in my car for a few minutes thinking about my collision with this woman. The newspaper accounts pictured a dynamic, beautiful couple. So what had soured the relationship, and why wouldn't she say more? Frustrated that I'd hit a dead end, I pondered what to do with the rest of the day, as this appointment had certainly ended earlier than I expected. I decided to drive to Pontoon for a walk on the beach. I always have an extra pair of socks and running shoes in the trunk for these occasions. The fresh air and change of scenery often provide a shift in my perspective on a problem. As I pulled away from the curb, I noticed Sharon hurrying out her door. She looked worried and absorbed in where she was going, so much so, in fact, that I don't think she saw me sitting there. And if she did, she didn't acknowledge me. Late for her appointment, I supposed. I also considered her trembling hands again, as well as the dark circles under her eyes. These were surprising features for someone expected to be cool and collected enough to handle huge financial sums in a highly stressful environment. If she wasn't in love with Matthew anymore, what was flustering her? The road between Castlebar and Pontoon veered and twisted like a corkscrew. Barren bogland sprinkled with purple heather and chunks of granite deposited by glaciers stretched for miles on either side of a road that was as narrow as a pencil. Neefin Mountain rose moodily in the distance. Opening the trunk to don my Nikes, I noticed some fishermen and waders standing in the water a few feet from shore. Ready for my workout, lest I disturb them, I selected the path into the forest instead of the beach.